Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks, where we meet with the top thought leaders and strategists in emerging technologies, digital assets, a regulatory landscape, and capital markets. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, and joining us this afternoon, we have Robbie Ferguson, co-founder and president of Immutable, as well as Eunice Giarta, co-founder and GM of Monad Foundation. We're here to discuss the expanding landscape of crypto projects and how increased institutional participation and regulatory clarity are driving ecosystem maturity and innovation. It's great to have the both of you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks, and we'll get a little bit of background to kick off here, Robbie. If you can tell us about the work that you're doing over at your firm where you are, and some of the projects you have going, particularly within the gaming space.
Awesome. Thanks, Jill. So we've been building Immutable now for 8 years, and we came to Web3 with a pretty simple thesis, which was that every single month, 200 million people play Fortnite, which is twice the amount of people use a blockchain combined. So clearly, the first interaction most people are going to have with blockchains and digital economies is going to be via gaming. And blockchains are almost impossible to build on for everyday developers and impossible to use for everyday consumers. So what we're building are infrastructure that allows it to be incredibly easy for any game developer or any player to use blockchain to own their underlying assets, to have a better form of incentive alignment for advertising, where games spend 60 to 70 billion dollars every single year on Facebook and Google ads alone, and can ultimately use this to create a much fairer, much more aligned business model for players. And what we've been really focused on the last year is how can we take this technology, make it invisible to end builders and end players, and take it to any game in the world. And that to me is where the biggest institutional adoption and product market fit lies for crypto, is taking this tech, making it invisible, and making it easy for any existing incumbent to use.
So you're thinking about user experience at this point. Eunice, tell us about the work that you're doing at Monad Foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me, Jill. And happy Thanksgiving week to everyone. So Monad is a new L1 blockchain, layer one blockchain technology and network that's based off of the Ethereum virtual machine. So this means immediate portability for existing Ethereum-based tooling, infrastructure, and apps that deploy on Monad, which makes it super easy for builders and end users to find the same experiences and use the same wallets that they're already accustomed to if they're users of Ethereum or other alt EVM chains. Today, I'm really excited to share that Monad mainnet went live with the official public launch. So we're really excited about that, and it's the product and culmination of over 3 years of development and technical innovation alongside my co-founders of Monad, Keone Han and James Hunsaker, with deep roots within high frequency trading from jump trading, specializing in like low latency distributed systems, which basically leads to a 1,000-fold increase in performance on Monad relative to Ethereum. So what this means is that Monad is a blockchain that's built for real-time payments, high fidelity DeFi, built to scale for the future, including things like distributed AI modeling and global institutional adoption.
Yeah. And Eunice, I think another signal that the space is maturing, we're talking more about governance in frameworks these days, security, privacy, and so forth. What are your thoughts around that, and why it's so important to have robust governance on chain?
I think I'm going to talk a little bit more about decentralization as being a core thesis for building out a secure network, as well as a core thesis of why blockchain is so important to begin with. Decentralization is what provides the security element and the trustlessness behind what makes crypto unique. For Monad in particular, we do feel that the new technologies enable a true geographic distribution of a large validator set. There's over 200 globally distributed validators on Monad day one, which is today. And that basically allows for enterprise and institutional businesses who are looking for secure and scalable technology to have that through Monad. Monad is open source. It's redesigned. Tech stack also means full transparency. So there's no black boxes. You can look at the code. You can go to GitHub and take a look at all the technical improvements there. And it's an ecosystem that truly scales with a decentralized network.
Yeah. And, Robbie, to go back to the way you're thinking about scalability and user experience, I think that's another signal as well that the space is starting to mature. And this, we're watching the market structure, whether you're talking about finance and payments, it's evolving in real time as the economy continues to get more digitized. And to your point, it's going to be ubiquitous and it's going to have utility. We won't even been thinking about using it at some point.
Precisely. So I think the two best examples are number one, Apple makes more net income from their 30% fee on in-app purchases than Netflix does every year. This year, the ability to take part of that share and add more value to when players opened up with the Epic Store victory over the App Store. What is the world's most efficient payment infrastructure with instantaneous settlements and the ability to have loyalty built into the tokens themselves? It is stablecoins. And if you look at the biggest adopter of stablecoins this year, it is Stripe. And they don't call themselves a Web3 payments company. They're simply calling themselves a financial infrastructure that improves everyday businesses and customers' experiences. But under the hood, they're planning on making every cross-border payment powered by stablecoins. We are now seeing this same shift with gaming. In the last 6 months, we've onboarded multi-billion-dollar public gaming companies like Ubisoft and Netmarble, who are using us to help improve the acquisition efficiency of their ads, their incentives, their engagement and retention systems, all with Web3 under the hood. And to us, that is the most exciting trend this year, which is the tech has finally got into a place, as Eunice said, where the scalability in tech is good enough to support massive mainstream use cases. But also, we have actually solved the regulatory and economic problems that mean mainstream companies can adopt it.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you make, and actually read my mind. I was going to ask you if that was the catalyst to bring on, these large companies that you had mentioned. How critical is continuing the momentum and advancing the legislation that has been in the works this year? It seems as if everyone's focused on market structure, and market structure. So certainly the Clarity Act, I think, would be the next catalyst for sure.
I think you're absolutely right, Jill. I think the Clarity Act is going to be personally the single most transformational piece of legislation that passes for crypto. Why? Because it's going to provide a lawful way for people to point value toward a compliant token. And that, if you look at the last 4 years, has been the most inimical thing about regulation for crypto is it has essentially been impossible to create a token lawfully for an ordinary company in a way that actually has real value. We're already in conversations with multi-billion-dollar public gaming companies who are considering launching tokens as incentives for their end players. But the thing they need is complete clarity and certainty on how they can do that in a lawful way. So I expect to see a ton of companies come out of the woodworks with ultimately programmable loyalty and incentive schemes that are far more efficient than whatever their existing system is using. That's what these tokens can be at the end of the day for many of these companies, and doing so in a way that comports with the Clarity Act.
Yeah, and Eunice, I'll ask the same of you as well, whether it's in terms of advancing initiatives at Monad or just the space in general, the importance of continuing to advance this legislation through.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when it comes down to it, it's ultimately about distribution and access. So whether that's through technology or through other means, clarity and whatnot, certainly is important. I guess, going back to the tech, one really neat aspect about high performance chains like Monad and others, Immutable as well, is the fact that it provides a next generation level of technology. If we think about scaling in other industries or even in, let's say, like the phone industry, no one necessarily thought that smartphones were needed when the iPhone first came out. It was a bizarre user interface. There were no buttons. People weren't even really sure that they needed internet on demand or like email on demand, and now it's ubiquitous and we can't live without it. So I think it comes down to working with and understanding how advancements in technology, whether it's blockchain or otherwise, can open up the doors for greater adoption and greater accessibility, whether that's from a global perspective or otherwise.
Yeah, and Eunice, what do you think some of the challenges that are out there that still need to be addressed?
One of the challenges is probably the fact that there's a lot of bifurcation and regional concerns that are in place. Like standardization, I think, is going to be one piece that will be a continuing challenge for global adoption. And we think about going back to tech again. There's like SDKs or APIs that are standardized in order for different platforms to be able to play nice with each other. And I think a similar thing is probably needed here as well. And in thinking about what does global payments look like for real-time payments. We have SWIFT as an example. We have like IBAN for certain transfers, and maybe that means that there needs to be something similar for a blockchain-oriented global payment structure.
Yeah. And Robbie, to wrap up here, we can also look at those challenges as opportunities as well as interoperability continues to improve.
Exactly. So I think everything crypto has been able to accomplish in the last decade has been, with two hands tied behind its back, with incredibly difficult infrastructure. And I think every technology progresses in three phases. First, you have technical validation. Is this thing even possible? For example, where quantum computing is today. Second, you have infrastructure building, which is people actually enabling this to be done at scale reasonably by companies and consumers. And the third phase is commercialization. How do you turn this into businesses that essentially via the profit mechanism scale this to billions of people? And this is firmly where we are in crypto today. And I think this is what will drive the right incentives to take crypto to the next billion users. And if we look at Immutable today, we've scaled Immutable zkVM to one of the largest chains in under just 18 months from the games that have gone live. I think we're one of the few companies in the world that can credibly say, more people on board via games than any other surface to blockchain. And we have a responsibility to make sure they do so in a way that is properly decentralized, in a way that has the best possible experience of crypto.
All right. I appreciate both of your insights. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.